Hi, everyone, and welcome to the very first episode of In Focus, a podcast from Pflugerville ISD. I'm Tamra Spence, Chief Communications Officer here in PfISD, and I am so excited to kick this off. This podcast is all about bringing you closer to what's happening in our schools. You'll hear directly from the people shaping the student experience and get a look at the ideas and initiatives driving our future. So who better to start with than our Superintendent, Dr. Quintin Shepherd. Thank you so much for being with us.
Yeah, super excited to kick this off. This is great.
And so we actually had, you and I were at a great event even early this morning.
We were.
One of your favorites, I think. So.
Yeah, the student leadership and the student advisory group that we have, that's where we bring our middle school students and our high school students together, and I meet with them a couple of times during the year, try to meet with all the feeder patterns. We do meet with all the feeder patterns. Had some great conversations last year, took a lot of information from those students, helped inform how I perceive the district and how to perceive the district from their eyes. And then today we kicked off the next round, and gosh, they were ready to talk. It was fantastic.
They really were. I walked in and the conversation was going before I even got there.
Yeah,
so I
just can't help myself the minute I walk in the door.
I think they were really excited. So I guess let's jump right in.
Sure.
You've been with us for a year now. So how does year two feel different than year one?
Yeah, it's always interesting. Year one is in some ways it's like gathering the reins, because the horses have been running for a long time and you've got to try to pick up the reins and figure out where it is. And so the first part of last year I spent how I would describe it is sort of mapping the DNA of the organization, or trying to understand the culture and understand it deeply. And I committed to a 100-day listening and learning tour, which really gave me the opportunity to listen deeply and not jump out with answers or solutions to problems that I might not have even fully understood. Last spring, I started reflecting back, like, these are the things I think I heard you say. Does this resonate with you, or would you change it, or would you modify it? And really that was just me practicing the language of the culture of the district. And then towards the end of last year, I really got a sense that, okay, now I have a much better understanding of the language that people are speaking, the things that are really important to folks, so that we could go into the summer with our principals and sort of launch some new ways of thinking and some new promises that we want to make to our students and to our community. And now this year is the initial steps of deploying those, which for us has meant, dialing in on some execution drivers that we think will advance some of our priorities, and then just communicating those priorities to our community so that everybody's aware of them. So right now it's the fun stage of communicating over and over what it is that we're focusing on.
So one of those things that came from that listening and learning tour is your new 3 E's that we have launched over the summer and this year, the promise. Yeah. So can you walk us through, what does that look like for our students?
Absolutely. This actually was born from the conversations of the student advisory last year. And one of the things that the students raised in all of our high schools and all of our middle schools was this notion of, what do pathways actually look like for kids? And our kids are well aware that, we need to have very clearly identified pathways for them as they approach high school and then matriculate through high school. But the important part about those pathways is on-ramps and off-ramps. Because kids need to be able to try stuff, and if it makes sense to them, do more of it, and if it doesn't make sense to them, then how do they get off this path and onto a different path? So we started talking about pathways, and at the same time we had a community group that was rewriting our strategic plan. And in the strategic plan, they were talking about these great new ideas for schools and how do we educate kids and what might that look like. And in my mind, this all starts to coalesce. But what I've learned over my career as a superintendent is people generally don't get excited about strategic plans. It's not like they carry it in their car and they read it while they're waiting on their doctor's appointment. That doesn't get people going. People get excited about symbols. They get excited about concepts. They get excited about a visual image that they can carry with them. And so just started using language and reflecting language to people. And one of the things that really started to resonate with everybody I spoke to, parents, teachers, administrators, and even the students themselves, was this notion of the 3 E's. And so the 3 E's is our promise, and I'll share it in just a minute. But the E's, just so we know what we're talking about, are employment, enlistment, and enrollment. And so the promise that we're making is that by 2029, 100% of our graduates will graduate with not just the diploma, because the diploma isn't the goal anymore. For many of the people who might be listening to this, it was our goal to graduate from high school. That was the goal. But in this world that we live in now, that's the floor. That's the minimum expectation. Everybody has the high school diploma. I'm interested in what happens on Monday morning after graduation, right? Monday morning after graduation, I want for every parent and every student to know that they have a next step, and they're already on that path to the next step. And it's also equally important that as a district and as a community, we embrace the fact that there are no lesser paths to a great education. I grew up in a system, and I'm guessing many of the folks who are listening did too, where there were lesser paths. I clearly went through a high school system that said, if you're going to college, that's a greater path, and CTE is a lesser path. But that's not the world we live in anymore. In military, where's that path fall into it? So we're looking at the system as that all paths are great path to an education, and this 3 E's promise is how we're going to get there.
So why is that vision so important to you?
That vision speaks to me because I think it is, like I said, it was drawn from our community. It's not something that, Quintin was laying awake at night and he's like, oh, this will be cool, and we're just going to do this now because I happen to be the superintendent. It was literally what the community was saying. This is what we desire of our system. This is what we desire of our teachers. This is what we desire for our students. And being able to extract that and then be able to repeat it back to the community in a way that's hopefully memorable and something that we can all get inspired and come behind this symbol. It's important. The other reason that it's important is because it's not just a symbol that speaks to high school. It's easy for people when they first hear this to think, oh, this is a high school initiative. And I have two faults with that. First of all, it's not an initiative, it's a promise. Secondly, it's not just high school. Because students who start, and when all students are offered a pre-K experience that allows them to be successful in kindergarten, that is what I call a predictive gateway to future success. That is one of the predictive gateways that helps kids get closer to graduation and beyond. When kids master the numeracy and literacy code by the end of first grade, that is a predictive gateway. And so when we make the 3 E's promise to our students, we're talking about first grade students. We're talking about pre-K students and everyone in between, and all of us being lockstep in alignment with the strategic plan, with this promise to our kids. And I look forward to having a system. I look forward to being the first system in Texas that can say that we graduate 100% of our kids with a successful launch. Not just that we lead them up to the launch pad and good luck with the launch, but that we can say, no, 100% of our kids have successfully launched into the world. That's the type of school district that I think parents want to send their kids to.
So today was the first time you've been able to really talk to kids one-on-one about that. How did that go? Did they seem excited about it? I know some of your high school kids, they're already halfway there, but what about your middle school kids?
Yeah, it was really interesting to see the response because the high school students are like, wait a minute, this is great, but what about me? And I'm like, well, we're still supporting you. We still want you to have those 3 E's, but our promise is really a 4-year ramp up for that. But they were excited about it, and it was the first thing that we talked about, and I think one of the things that they were most eager to talk about because they had so much to share. And I think what was especially fun for me to see was some of the students who were in the student advisory last year who came back this year, they now get to see what I meant when I told them that you all, like, you're serving a real purpose here. It's not that you're just speaking to the superintendent for some PR purpose or, personal reason for me, but like you're actually helping inform what we do and how we do what we do. And I think you could almost see those students sit a little bit taller because they recognize that's what real ownership looks like. And then for the middle school students, they were super eager to talk about that. And they immediately jumped in with, we should think about this and we should think about that. And what are we going to do about this? And they had course questions and all kinds of stuff. And I'm like, this is perfect. This is exactly what we want. This is how we take a great idea and manifest it into reality.
So, changing gears a little bit, we know every district in Central Texas is facing financial challenges. Yeah. How, and staffing is always a challenge as well. How do you balance these realities with keeping the students at the center?
Yeah, it's a struggle for every district, and us included. We also know that we passed a deficit budget this year, and we're starting to look at the budget for next year, and we know that there's a deficit looming in front of us as well. And it becomes, for me, it becomes really important that when we're having this conversation with our community or anyone, usually how I approach the conversation is to identify the frames by which we're viewing the conversation. What I mean by that is this, that like all of us bring frames into every conversation we have in life. It doesn't matter. And so if we bring in the frame of effectiveness of the school day and effectiveness for our kids, if that's our working frame, then we talk and we focus on planning periods and prep times and student opportunities and clubs and sports. And if the only thing that matters, if that's the only frame that ever enters the conversation, then we tend to think more and more and more and more. Like more time for teachers to plan, that's a good thing. More time for students to learn, that's a great thing. More clubs for kids, that's a good thing. These are all good things, and I wouldn't argue with that. They are all good things. But then if we were to take the same conversation and say, now we're not going to look at it through an effectiveness frame, we're going to look at this through an efficiency frame. When you start looking at school systems through an efficiency frame, the conversation changes pretty quickly, right? And so what we did as a district, we're taking a slow approach, not altogether dissimilar from the districts around us, but I think we're taking a much slower approach, and that's twofold. Number one, we've had outstanding financial stewardship for years and years and years, long before I arrived. So we have a little bit more of a buffer than other school districts. But number two, it's really important to me that we get a lot of ownership around the ideas that come forward as to our optimization studies and our efficiency studies. And we kicked that off even last year. We had a community advisory, financial community advisory committee. We took a bunch of their recommendations. We're feeding them forward, and we're kicking off now our optimization work. And that's going to take us through the rest of this year. As we optimize our system, what it means is that we're going to look at the totality of our system and say we know that the budget deficit has been growing and growing and growing. We know that we're similar to all of our other colleagues. We also know that we have a little bit of a lead time to make these big decisions. But what we want to do now is get as many community members as possible involved in the conversation. And that's going to take place in several different ways. One of the ways will be with meetings, community meetings, and community advisories as we go out and start to talk about priorities. Another way for people to get involved is to watch the board meetings, because we're going to be talking about it at board meetings on a regular basis. And finally, and our community hopefully has started to become comfortable with this, we run thought exchanges, which is a crowdsourcing way for us to reach out to everybody and say, here's this thing we're thinking about. What are your thoughts and questions? And we're going to do that as part of this optimization study, so that my goal is that 100% of our community, which includes parents, students, and residents, and taxpayers, and everybody in between, has a chance to make sure that their voice is heard in some format.
It's a pretty big undertaking for your second year.
It most certainly is, but I know we're up for it.
Awesome. So if you look 3 to 5 years down the road, what's your vision for Pflugerville ISD?
Well, we're gonna fulfill that promise. That's number one. The 3 to 5 year vision. 2029, 100% of our graduates, 3 E's as they cross the graduation stage. I'm super excited about that. I'm also excited that the 3 to 5 year window is a good one to look at, because we're also in the process of deploying our strategic plan. We spent last year writing it. Give us a year or two to get that work under our belt and start making progress. By year 3 and 4, we should start to see some of that work actually made manifest in our district. You know, one of the things that folks talked about when we did our strategic planning is, what would happen if we started to rethink some of our elementary school experiences? What if we made like internal magnet schools, district magnet schools? Or what if one of the ideas that was shared a lot was a STEM academy? What would it look like to have an elementary STEM experience for kids? Not on every campus. Not every campus should look exactly like every other campus. But what if we gave opportunities to our community to say, well, here's a campus that offers project-based learning. Here's a campus that offers STEM education, STEM-focused education, and so on and so forth. And again, the best part is these ideas have come from our community. But as those things start to take place, I think in 3 to 5 years, we might actually start to see some traction in bringing those things forward. And I think then the sky is the limit. The other thing that I get excited about is within that 3 to 5 year window, we'll have launched the CTE Center, which is a whole new way of thinking about how we do CTE. Again, it comes back to this notion that there are no lesser paths. This is going to be a state-of-the-art facility where our kids have the best opportunities in the world, hoping to partner with ACC so that we can offer as much dual credit experience for our kids as possible. And I just look forward to a bustling CTE center as well.
Yes, and that's something we're looking to break ground on this fall.
That's
right. So either October or November, we're still waiting to get that date settled, but that's something that's going to be very big for our families to see.
Yeah.
Another thing that we've made a lot of headway in, specifically last week, was in our teacher housing initiative, which was approved in 2022.
Yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so we're excited. We're running full steam on that one. So the board did make some actions, and they helped set up the bylaws, and we're setting up the board that will oversee that work as we bring it forward. We've gotten a lot of feedback from our staff. We've gotten a lot of feedback from constituents about that. And there was a strong desire to get the project moving. And we needed to figure out how to get this project moving. And I'm glad we took the time to do it. There were some folks in the community who were like, man, what's taking so long? But the fact of the matter is, nobody in the state of Texas has done this the way that we've done it. And so as we did it, we wanted to make sure that we did it the right way. And so that's why we took our time, very deliberate about how we developed this program, excited to be able to launch that and get teachers into teacher housing soon as well.
Yeah, I know I've gotten a lot of calls from my colleagues from other districts. I'm sure you have too, asking how exactly are y'all doing that?
Yeah, exactly.
I think it's something that's going to be very exciting for us in Central Texas. So what gives you the most hope and excitement as you think about the future for our students and our staff?
What gives me the most hope is, in the now year and a half that I've been here, is this is a community that speaks to me the word abundance. And I'm really careful and thoughtful about how I use that word. Having had 20 years experience as a superintendent and meeting lots of peers in different communities and hearing what they struggle with and what they work through, and then again just my lived experience, I think that communities, if you overgeneralize, I think communities can be put into two buckets. There's either communities that are communities of scarcity or communities of abundance. Communities of scarcity have somehow built a culture in the community where there's just not enough. And so it becomes this, I have to get mine, and if I get mine, you don't get to have yours. And there are clear winners and there are clear losers. In those communities, this is not a good or bad. Mm-hmm. This is just the way communities develop their own culture over time. Communities of scarcity are really difficult places to advance education because it becomes a lot harder to have conversations about what we want for our kids and aspirations because folks are more focused on their kid, right?
Yeah.
Communities of abundance take a different mindset and have a different culture and have a different belief that there's enough. The trick is we just have to figure out how to make enough for everyone, right? And I feel like Pflugerville, to me, has been one of the communities that lives in a community of abundance or a culture of abundance, perhaps more than any other community I've ever lived in. Everybody I talk to is like, we support education. How can we support you further? What can we do? But yet, it's not just education. They support the development of the city, the development of city parks and city amenities and downtown. And you talk about Pflugerville Economic Development Corporation and some of the work that happens there. And this is a community that says yes. And it's not just a blank check, yes to everything. It's a thoughtful and deliberate yes. How can we do this? And how can we do it in such a way that it has the Pflugerville stamp of excellence? That, to me, like, how could you not be excited about that?
It is a great community. I've been here for 13 years, and I can't imagine working anywhere else. So I'm glad that you're enjoying it as much as you've been here.
Yeah.
So before we wrap up, is there one message you'd like to share directly with our families, staff, or students as we get the year started?
Yeah, the message is, of course, that of hope. I think it's always bring that optimism into our work, bring that joy into our lives. I know that there's always things that are going on that detract our attention and take us away from what we're really here for, but we're here for each other. Right? And creating this sense of belonging and maintaining a culture is so important to me. And when I talk about culture, I always try to just break it down in very simple ways, simple for us to understand and simple for us to talk about. And to me, the best description of culture is everything that has been happening in the last 5 minutes. If we think through every classroom and every hallway and every interaction that teachers have had with students, that students have had with administrators, that teachers have had with each other, that's our culture. Right? And focusing on that culture in that way keeps it very real. It's not some esoteric thing that we're striving for. It's not some strategy. It's just who we are. So I'm just really excited about that, and maintaining that and keeping that hope alive for all of us is just so important to me. And of course, the other part that I'd be remiss if I didn't say is stay involved. Like I am designed in such a way. Every leader has a different style. Every leader has a different way that they approach the work. And the way that I approach the work is, collecting ideas and then pushing those ideas back out into the community and say, do I have this right? Do I have this right? And so we offer chances for folks to meet with us when we run task forces. If you see task forces come up, jump on a task force. It's a great experience. It can be exhausting. It can be a lot of work, but it can be fun. We have committees that are constantly running on a regular basis. That's a great way to get involved. We run exchanges on a regular basis. Get involved that way, but just keep your voice active because that's how we together collectively make the system better.
And even just staying informed. I
And
know
just
since
staying
you've been
informed.
here, one of the big things we did was we launched the administration report, which
Yeah.
was something that you wanted to get out to everybody.
Yeah.
So that's another thing that we put out every month that is probably really important for people to be paying attention to.
Yeah, if you haven't checked out the administration report at least once, then my take on it is you're missing a major part of the conversation that's advancing the district at this point. We've designed the administration report around our strategic plan. So essentially or effectively what you're doing is you're reading the work of the district as it aligns to the strategic plan, the thing that the community has said is most important to us. And what we do in an effort to be as transparent as possible is we put the strategic plan on the website before the board meeting so that people could read the administration report, see what we're talking about, see the things that we're interested in, and they could reach out if they wanted to. And we do. We get a fair number of questions from people who say, I'm reading this and I have this question. Great. We welcome that. And again, it's for people to stay as involved as they possibly can. It's one click away on our website. I encourage people to always go there first for the most robust information about the work that's happening in the district.
Well, thank you so much for being here with us to help launch this podcast. We're really excited about having another communication channel to share with our families and our staff and our community. So thank you, everyone, for being here. We're going to keep bringing you stories all year long to highlight the great things happening within our district. I'm Tamra Spence. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time.